I'm Ethan, 29, and for a year, I sent my parents $500 every week. That's $26,000 total scraped from my paycheck as a warehouse supervisor. It wasn't like I was swimming in cash. My budget was tight: ramen nights, no vacations, skipping drinks with friends to make ends meet. But I did it because they needed me. Or so I thought. It started when Dad, Greg, 58, lost his job at the factory. Mom, Linda, 56, called me voice shaky, saying they were drowning in bills. Mortgage, groceries, car payments, they were falling behind. "We don't know how we'll survive, Ethan," she said. I could hear her crying through the phone. My stomach twisted. They're my parents. What kind of son lets them sink? So I stepped up. Every Monday, I wired $500. At first, they were grateful. "You're a lifesaver," Dad would say. Mom sent me heart emojis and called me her rock. It felt good, like I was holding the family together, but soon the gratitude faded. If I sent $500, Mom would text a day later. "Things are rough this week. Can you spare a bit more?" Never a demand. Just a nudge wrapped in guilt. I'd check my account, see the red flags, but send another $100 anyway. They were family. That's what you do, right? Meanwhile, my sister Claire, 32, floated through life on a cloud of privilege. She'd married Nathan, a real estate guy with deep pockets, and suddenly she was Mom and Dad's pride and joy. They'd gush about her perfect life like she'd cracked the code to success. "Claire's so smart with her choices," Mom would say while I sat there, the guy bankrolling their groceries. Claire hadn't worked since college, but in their eyes, she was a queen. Me, I was just Ethan, the reliable one who paid up. I never called it out. What was the point? Claire could do no wrong, and I didn't want to stir drama. I figured if I kept helping, they'd see my worth. But last week, everything changed. It was a sunny Saturday when I invited Mom and Dad over for a barbecue. Nothing fancy: burgers, a cooler of beers, a chill vibe in my backyard. I'd saved up to make it nice. "We're not feeling great," Mom said over the phone, her voice weak. "Maybe next time," I frowned. "You okay? I can drop off some soup." She hesitated. "No, don't come by. We don't want you catching this. But, could you send a little for some meds? We're short." I didn't blink. I Venmo'd $150 right away. "Get better," I texted. "Love you." The next day, I ran into Mrs. Carter, our nosy but sweet neighbor at the gas station. She's in her 70s, always ready with a story. "Ethan, I fed your parents' cat while they were away," she said, adjusting her glasses. "They're back now, though." I froze. "Away?" She nodded. "Oh yes, they left last week with Claire and Nathan. Looked like a fun trip." My heart sank. Last week I croaked. Mrs. Carter tilted her head. "They didn't tell you they were gone 8 days. I forced a smile, thanked her, and got in my car. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. 8 days. That meant when Mom told me they were sick, when they asked for money for meds, they were on vacation. With Claire. Without me. I drove home in a daze. My apartment felt too small, the walls closing in. I sat on my couch staring at my phone, replaying every call, every text. All those weeks I'd stressed over their bills, skipped my own plans, stretched my paycheck to keep them afloat. And they'd lied. They'd taken my money and gone on a family trip, leaving me out like I didn't exist. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with memories. Mom's voice praising Claire's amazing life. Dad's offhand comments about how I should be more like your sister. I thought about the $26,000 I'd given them, money I could have used for a car, a vacation, or just a damn night out without worrying. Instead, I'd funded their getaway. The betrayal stung worse than the money. By morning, I knew I had to face them. I wasn't ready, but I couldn't let this slide. I grabbed my keys and drove to their house, my pulse hammering. Their car was in the driveway, still dusty from the road. I knocked and Mom answered, her face lighting up. "Ethan." What a surprise, she acted like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't lied to my face. I stepped inside. The house smelled like fresh coffee, a suitcase half unpacked in the corner. "How was your trip?" I asked, my voice steady but sharp. Mom's smile faltered. "Trip," she said, like I'd caught her stealing. I crossed my arms. "The one with Claire and Nathan. The one you lied about while asking me for money." Her eyes darted to the kitchen where Dad was rinsing a mug. He didn't look up. "Ethan, it's not like that," Mom started, but I cut her off. "You told me you were sick. You took my money for medicine while you were on a beach with Claire. How is that not exactly what it looks like?" Dad finally turned, drying his hands. "Don't raise your voice," he said, like I was a kid throwing a tantrum. I laughed bitter. I've given you $500 a week for a year. I paid for that trip and you didn't even invite me. You lied to me. And you think I'm the one out of line. Mom sighed like I was exhausting her. We just needed a break, Ethan. It wasn't about you. My chest tightened. Not about me. I've been breaking my back to keep you afloat and you ditch me for Claire who doesn't lift a finger for you. How's that fair? Dad stepped forward, his jaw tight. You're acting like we owe you something. We're your parents. I stared at him, the man I'd spent a year trying to save. You don't owe me, I said. I gave you everything I had and you can't even be honest with me. I pulled out my phone, opened my bank app, and stopped the weekly transfers right there. Mom's eyes widened. Ethan, don't do this, she pleaded. We need that money. I shook my head. No, you don't. You've got Claire, your perfect daughter. Let her take care of you. I turned to leave, but Dad's voice stopped me. You're just jealous we didn't take you, he said, his tone cold. That's what this is about. I spun around, my blood boiling. Jealous? I'm not jealous, Dad. I'm done. Done being your ATM, done being second to Claire. You want her? You've got her. I walked out, slamming the door behind me. My hands shook as I got in my car, but for the first time in months, I felt something like relief. I was done carrying them. Let Claire step up for once. When I got home, my girlfriend, Mia, 27, was waiting. She took one look at my face and knew. You okay? She asked, handing me a beer. I sank onto the couch. I cut them off, I said. No more money. She nodded like she'd been waiting for this. Good. They don't deserve you. My phone buzzed. Mom, then Dad, then Claire. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. I ignored them all, but I knew this wasn't over. Claire would come knocking and I had a feeling things were about to get messy. What happens next? Stick around for part 2 where Claire shows up at my door and Mia doesn't hold back. I thought cutting off my parents' money would bring peace. I was wrong. The next morning, my phone was a war zone, 17 missed calls, 12 texts, 3 voicemails. Mom's messages were soft pleading. Ethan, call me. We can work this out. Dad's were sharp. You're being childish. Pick up. Claire's. Just one text. You're a jerk. I tossed my phone on the counter and poured coffee. Let them stew. Mia, my girlfriend, was in the kitchen flipping pancakes. She glanced at my phone as it buzzed again. They're relentless, she said, sliding a plate my way. I shrugged. They'll get tired eventually. She raised an eyebrow. You sure Claire's not the type to let this go? I sighed. Mia knew my sister too well. Claire, 32, thrived on being the center of attention. Me pulling the plug on Mom and Dad's cash flow. That was a direct hit to her perfect world. Around noon, a loud knock rattled our apartment door. Mia shot me a look. Told you. I stood bracing myself. I got this. I opened the door and there was Claire, arms crossed, designer purse dangling from her elbow. Her sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Behind her, Mom and Dad lingered, looking uncomfortable but defiant. Claire didn't wait for an invitation. Really? Ethan? You're throwing a fit over a vacation. I leaned against the doorframe, blocking her path. Not a fit, Claire. I'm done bankrolling Mom and Dad while they worship you. Her eyes narrowed. Worship me? Oh, please. You act like they forced you to send money. I clenched my jaw. They didn't force me. But the sob stories? The we're struggling calls while they're sipping margaritas with you. That's manipulation and you know it. Mom stepped forward, her voice shaky. Ethan, we didn't mean to hurt you, we just needed a break. I raised an eyebrow. A break you lied about. You told me you were sick, Mom. You asked for $150 for medicine while you were on that trip, explain that. She opened her mouth and closed it. Dad crossed his arms. We don't have to justify ourselves to you. I laughed, short and bitter. You're right, you don't, because I'm done. No more money. Claire scoffed, tossing her hair. So dramatic. Just turn the payments back on and we can all move on. I stared at her, stunned by her nerve. You think I'm that spineless, no, Claire? You've got Nathan's money. You pay for them. Dad's face reddened. We don't want your money, Ethan. I nodded. Good, because it's gone. Claire rolled her eyes. You're abandoning them. Real classy. That's when Mia stepped out from the kitchen, her arms crossed. She'd been listening quiet until now. Abandoning them, she said, her voice calm but sharp. Like they abandoned Ethan, lied to him, used him while praising you. That's rich, Claire. Claire's head snapped toward Mia. Stay out of this. You don't know our family. Mia smirked. I know enough. I know Ethan's been carrying your parents for a year while you play princess. I know they ditched him for a vacation and lied to his face. That's not family, that's a scam. Claire's face twisted. You're just his little cheerleader, huh? Pathetic. I felt my fist clench, but before I could speak, Mia took a step closer. Keep talking, Claire. See what happens. The air crackled. Claire laughed, but it was nervous. What, you gonna hit me? Mia tilted her head, her smile icy. Try me. For a second, I thought it might actually go down, but Claire hesitated, glancing at Mom and Dad for backup. They didn't move. Mom just wrung her hands, and Dad stared at the ground. Claire huffed. This is ridiculous. Ethan, you're letting her ruin our family. I shook my head. No, Claire. You and them did that all on your own. Mia took another step, her voice low. Here's the deal. You three done here. Ethan's not your bank anymore. Get in your fancy car and go. Claire's jaw dropped. You can't talk to me like that. Mia didn't flinch. In a flash, she reached out, grabbed Claire's sunglasses off her head, and tossed them onto the lawn. Oops, Mia said. Fetch. Claire gasped, scrambling to pick them up. You're insane, she shrieked. Mia grinned. Maybe. Now leave. Claire turned to Mom and Dad, expecting them to jump in, but they just stood there silent, like they knew they'd lost the upper hand. Claire straightened, clutching her sunglasses. You'll regret this, Ethan, she spat, then stormed off, Mom and Dad trailing behind her like scolded kids. I closed the door and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Mia flopped onto the couch. Well, that was fun, I laughed, shaking my head. You're a menace, she winked. You love it. I did. Mia had my back in a way my family never had. But as the adrenaline faded, I felt a pang of unease. Claire's parting shot, you'll regret this, stuck with me. She wasn't one to let things go. That night, my phone stayed quiet. No calls, no texts. It was eerie, like the calm before a storm. Mia and I ordered pizza, trying to keep things light, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. The next morning, it hit. My phone rang at 7 a.m. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was frantic. Ethan, please call me. It's about Claire. Something's happened. I stared at the phone, my stomach twisting. Mia, still half asleep, mumbled, what now? I played the message again, then looked at her. I don't know, but I think Claire's about to make this a lot worse. I didn't want to call back, but curiosity gnawed at me. What had Claire done, and how was it going to drag me back into their mess? Want to know what Claire's up to? Part 3's coming, and trust me, it's a bombshell you won't see coming. Mom's voicemail echoed in my head all morning. It's about Claire. Something's happened. I didn't want to call back. I'd washed my hands of their drama, hadn't I? But curiosity clawed at me. What could Claire have done to make Mom sound that desperate? Mia, sipping coffee on the couch, caught my stare at the phone. You're gonna call, aren't you? She said, half teasing, half worried. I sighed. I need to know what's going on. She shrugged. Your funeral. I hit redial. Mom picked up on the first ring. Ethan? Thank God, she said, her voice raw. We need to talk. I leaned against the kitchen counter, bracing myself. What's wrong with Claire? There was a pause, then a shaky breath. She's staying with us. Nathan kicked her out. They're getting a divorce. I blinked, processing. Claire, the golden child with her perfect husband and perfect life, was crashing at Mom and Dad's. Wait, what I said? Why'd Nathan kick her out? Mom hesitated. It's complicated. She's a mess, Ethan. She needs you. I almost laughed. Needs me. She called me a jerk yesterday. She told me to turn your payments back on, like I'm her personal ATM. Why should I care? Ethan. Please, Mom said. She's your sister. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Mom, I'm done bailing you all out. Claire's got money, right? Let her figure it out. There was a muffled sob. She doesn't. Nathan cut her off. She has nothing. I froze. Nothing. Claire, who flaunted designer bags and bragged about her smart choices, was broke. I glanced at Mia, who raised an eyebrow, clearly eavesdropping. Okay, I said slowly. But why's this my problem? Mom's voice cracked. We can't support her. You know we're struggling. I bit back a retort about their struggling beach vacation. Then why's she there, I asked. She showed up last night, Mom said, screaming at us, blaming us for everything. Said if we hadn't leaned on you so much, you wouldn't have cut us off and she wouldn't be in this mess, I smirked. So Claire's finally seeing the real you. Sees. Good. Ethan, don't be cruel, Mom said. She wants to talk to you. Can you come over? I laughed sharp. After she stormed my place with you and Dad acting like I owe her? No way. Mom sighed. Please, just hear her out. I shook my head even though she couldn't see. I'll think about it, I said and hung up. Mia set her mug down. Claire's broke, huh? Karma's quick. I nodded, but my mind was spinning. Claire's divorce was a shock, but part of me wasn't surprised. Nathan always seemed too slick, like he was playing a role. Still, Claire falling this hard. That was new. I didn't want to care, but a tiny part of me wondered what she'd say if I gave her a chance. That afternoon, my phone pinged. A text from Claire Ethan. I'm sorry, can we talk? I'm at Mom and Dad's. I stared at it, torn. Mia peeked over my shoulder. You're not seriously considering this, are you? I shrugged. She's never apologized before. Maybe she's serious, Mia snorted. Or she's playing you. Again. She had a point, but I couldn't shake the urge to see this through. I'll go, I said. But I'm not promising anything. I drove to Mom and Dad's, my stomach in knots. Their house looked the same neat lawn, faded shutters, but it felt different, like a stage for someone else's drama. I knocked and Claire answered. She looked rough. No makeup, hair, and a messy bun, wearing a sweatshirt that hung off her frame. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. Ethan, she said, stepping aside. Thanks for coming. I walked in. Mom and Dad were in the living room, sitting stiffly on the couch. Dad's jaw was tight and Mom kept twisting a tissue in her hands. Claire gestured to a chair. Sit. Please. I stayed standing. Say what you need to say, Claire. She swallowed, glancing at our parents, then back at me. I screwed up, she said. I shouldn't have come at you yesterday. I was mad, but I get it now. You've been carrying Mom and Dad and I've been coasting. I'm sorry. I studied her, looking for the catch. You're sorry because Nathan dumped you, I said. Not because you care about me. Her face crumpled. That's not fair. I know I've been awful. I took Mom and Dad's favoritism and ran with it. But I'm not that person anymore. Nathan's gone, and I'm stuck. I need my brother. Her voice broke, and for a second I felt a pang. But then I remembered every time she dismissed me, every time Mom and Dad praised her while I emptied my wallet. You need me now because you're broke, I said. Where were you when I was stressing over their bills, when they lied to me about their vacation? You were on that trip, Claire. You knew they were using me. She flinched. I didn't know they lied about being sick, I swear. I crossed my arms. But you knew they were taking my money. You never said a word. She looked down, tears falling. I was selfish. I thought it was your choice to help them. I didn't see how bad it was. Dad cut in, his voice gruff. This isn't all Claire's fault, Ethan. We messed up too. I turned to him, surprised. Dad admitting fault. That was a first. Yeah, you did? I said. You took $26,000 from me and ditched me for a family trip. You made me feel like I was nothing compared to her. Mom sobbed quietly. We didn't mean to make you feel that way, she said. Claire's life seemed so perfect. We leaned on you because we thought you could handle it. I shook my head. That's not an excuse. You chose her over me every time. Claire stepped closer. Ethan, I'm not asking for money. I just want to fix this. I want us to be family again. I stared at her, torn between anger and the tiniest flicker of hope. Could she mean it? Or was this another game? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Mia. Don't let them suck you back in. I smirked. Mia knew me too well. I looked at Claire, then Mom and Dad. I hear you, I said, but I'm not ready to trust you, any of you. I need time. Claire nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay, I'll wait. I left without another word, my head a mess. Part of me wanted to believe Claire, but I'd been burned too many times. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. Claire's divorce, Mom and Dad's guilt, it was all too neat, too sudden. What weren't they telling me? When I got back, Mia was waiting. So she said, arms crossed. I sank onto the couch. Claire's broke. Nathan left her. She says she's sorry and wants to fix things. Mia rolled her eyes. Convenient timing. I nodded. Yeah, too convenient. My phone buzzed again, another text from Claire. There's more I need to tell you. Tomorrow I showed Mia. She groaned. Here we go again. What's Claire hiding? Part 4 is dropping soon and it's about to get wild. Claire's text haunted me all night. There's more I need to tell you. Tomorrow I didn't reply. Part of me wanted to block her number and move on, but another part couldn't let go. What else could she possibly have to say? Mia, sprawled on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, wasn't buying it. She's reeling you back in, she said, tossing a kernel in the air. Don't fall for it. I sighed, rubbing my temples. I know, but what if it's legit? Mia snorted. Legit with Claire. Good luck. By morning, I decided to hear her out one last time. I texted back, meet me at the diner on 5th. 1 p.m. Just you. No mom, no dad, no ambush. If Claire wanted to talk, it'd be on my terms. She replied instantly. Okay. Thanks, Ethan. The gratitude felt weird, like she was trying too hard. I got to the diner early, grabbing a booth by the window. The place was quiet, just the hum of a jukebox and the clink of dishes. Claire walked in at 1:05, looking less like the polished sister I knew. Her hair was flat, her jeans faded, and she carried a cheap tote instead of her usual designer purse. She slid into the booth, avoiding my eyes. Thanks for meeting me, she said, her voice soft. Get to it, Claire, I said, sipping my coffee. What's this more you need to tell me? She fidgeted, twisting a napkin in her hands. I wasn't totally honest yesterday, she said, about Nathan and why he left. I leaned back, arms crossed. Shocker. Go on. She took a deep breath. He didn't just kick me out. I messed up. Big time. I raised an eyebrow. Messed up? How she looked away, her cheeks flushing. I was spending too much. Way too much. Nathan's money wasn't endless, but I acted like it was. Clothes, trips, jewelry. I racked up debt he didn't know about. When he found out, he lost it. Said I was reckless, that I lied to him. He filed for divorce and cut me off. I stared at her, processing. Claire, the smart choices queen, had blown through Nathan's fortune. How much debt? I asked. She swallowed. Almost $200,000. My jaw dropped. 200 grand? How do you even do that? She shrugged, eyes glassy. It's easy when you don't think it'll catch up to you. I shook my head, almost impressed by the chaos. Okay, but why tell me you think I'm gonna bail you out? Her head snapped up. No, I'm not asking for money. I needed you to know the truth. I've been fake Ethan. With you, with mom and dad, with everyone. I acted like I had it all together, but I was drowning. And I let them treat you like crap because it made me feel better about myself. Her words hit harder than I expected. Claire admitting she was a fraud, I didn't know what to say. You knew they were using me, I said, my voice low. You saw me send them $500 a week stress over their bills while they praised you. And you just soaked it up. She nodded, tears spilling. I did, I'm sorry. I was so caught up in being their favorite, I didn't care what it cost you. I leaned forward, my anger bubbling. You were on that vacation, Claire. You knew they lied about being sick, knew they took my money for medicine. You didn't say a word. She wiped her eyes. I didn't know about the medicine thing until after. But the vacation. Yeah, I knew they didn't tell you. I thought it was their call, not mine. I was wrong. I sat back, torn. Her apology felt real, but trust was a long way off. So what now? I asked. You're broke, living with mom and dad, and you want… What forgiveness? A clean slate. She shook her head. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want a chance to make it right. I'm getting a job, Ethan. A real one. I'm done pretending. I snorted. A job? You haven't worked since college. She flinched but didn't back down. I know, but I'm starting over. I'm not asking you to fix this. I just needed you to know I'm trying. I studied her, looking for the old Claire, the one who'd roll her eyes and demand I fall in line. She wasn't there. This Claire looked broken, but maybe honest. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Carter. Our nosy neighbor Ethan. Your parents are fighting with Claire again. Loud enough to wake the dead. Thought you should know. I frowned, showing Claire the text. Her face paled. What's going on at home? I asked. She sighed. They're mad at me. They think I should have fixed things with Nathan or at least gotten a better divorce deal. Now they're stuck with me and they're panicking without your money. I laughed bitter. So they're turning on you too. Poetic. She didn't smile. They're scared, Ethan. They spent everything you gave them plus more they borrowed. They're in debt too. My stomach dropped. Debt? How much? She hesitated. I don't know exactly, but it's bad. They might lose the house. I leaned back, my head spinning. Mom and Dad in debt. After I'd given them $26,000, they blew through my money and took out loans, I said, incredulous. Claire nodded. They thought your payments would keep coming. They got reckless. I clenched my fists. And they never told me. They just kept asking for more. Claire reached out, then stopped herself. I'm telling you now because I don't want any more secrets. But I get it if you're done with all of us. I stared out the window, the weight of it all crashing down. My parents who'd lied and used me were now drowning. Claire, who'd coasted on their favoritism, was trying to claw her way back. And me, I just wanted to be free. I stood tossing a few bucks on the table for the coffee. I need to think, Claire. Don't call me. I'll reach out if I'm ready. She nodded, her eyes wet. Okay, I'm here. I walked out the diner's bell, jingling behind me. My chest felt tight like I was carrying years of their baggage. I drove home, replaying Claire's words, Miss Carter's text, the whole mess. Mia was at work, so the apartment was quiet. I sat on the couch, staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to call Mom and Dad, demand answers about their debt. Another part wanted to let them crash and burn. Then my phone buzzed again, a voicemail from Dad. His voice was rough, tired. Ethan, it's me. Claire told us you met. We need to talk. It's bad. Call me. I deleted the message. I wasn't ready to dive back into their chaos, but as I sat there, a new question gnawed at me. How deep was their debt? And what would happen if they lost everything I didn't owe them, but the thought of them homeless or Claire spiraling wouldn't let me go? Mia got home an hour later, kicking off her shoes. How did it go with Claire? She asked. I filled her in Claire's debt, her apology, Mom and Dad's mess. Mia whistled. They're a train wreck. I nodded. Yeah, and I don't know if I'm done with them for good. She sat beside me. You don't have to decide now, but whatever you do, don't let them drag you down again. She was right, but that night I couldn't sleep. Claire's honesty. Dad's voicemail, the idea of their house slipping away, it all swirled in my head. Something told me this was far from over. What's next for Ethan and his family? Part 5's coming, and it's gonna hit hard. Dad's voicemail gnawed at me. It's bad. Call me. I didn't. I'd heard enough of their excuses, their half-truths. But the thought of them losing their house and Claire's confession about her own mess kept me up all night. Mia found me staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. You're overthinking this, she mumbled, half asleep. Let them figure it out. I wanted to, but something wouldn't let me walk away completely. Not yet. By morning, I decided to face them. Not because I owed them, but because I needed answers. I texted Claire, I'm coming over. All of you there? No games, she replied. We'll be here, thank you. I showed Mia, who rolled her eyes. You're too nice, she said, handing me coffee. Don't let them guilt you back. I nodded. I won't. I drove to Mom and Dad's, the familiar street feeling foreign now. Their car was in the driveway next to Claire's beat-up sedan, a far cry from her old BMW. I knocked and Dad answered, his face lined with exhaustion. Ethan, he said, stepping aside. Come in. Inside, Mom sat at the kitchen table, eyes puffy. Claire stood by the counter, arms crossed, looking like she hadn't slept either. The air was heavy, like they'd been arguing. I didn't sit. Let's make this quick, I said. Claire told me about her divorce, her debt. She mentioned you're in debt too. How bad is it? Mom looked at Dad, who cleared his throat. Bad, he said. We owe $80,000. Credit card's a second mortgage. We got in over our heads. My jaw tightened. Over your heads, I gave you $26,000 last year. Where'd it go? Mom's voice trembled. Bills, repairs, groceries. It adds up, I scoffed. And vacations with Claire? That added up too, huh? Dad's eyes flashed. Don't start, Ethan. We made mistakes, but we're your parents. I laughed sharp. Mistakes? You lied to me, took my money, and left me out while you played happy family with her. I pointed at Claire, who flinched. She stepped forward. Ethan, I told you I'm trying to change. I got a job waitressing. It's not much, but I'm paying my way. I raised an eyebrow. Good for you, but that doesn't fix what they did. Or what you ignored. Mom sobbed. We're sorry, Ethan. We leaned on you too hard. We thought you were okay with it. Okay with it, I said, my voice rising. I was killing myself to keep you afloat. Skipped nights out, stretched every paycheck while you bragged about Claire's perfect life. You made me feel like I was nothing. Dad stood, his face red. That's enough. We're family. You don't get to judge us. I stared him down. Family. Family doesn't lie about being sick to get cash for a trip they didn't invite me on. Family doesn't take $26,000 and rack up $80,000 in debt behind my back. Claire cut in, her voice shaky. They're scared, Ethan. The bank's threatening foreclosure. They could lose everything. I turned to her. And you think I should save them? After everything. She shook her head. I'm not asking you to. I thought you should know. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled back. Ethan? Please, she said. We're sorry. We'll do better. Can't we start over? I looked at her, then Dad, then Claire. Their faces were a mix of guilt, fear, and desperation. For a moment, I saw the family I'd wanted united, honest. But it was too late. No, I said, my voice steady. You don't get to start over. I gave you everything and you threw it away. I'm done. Dad's jaw clenched. You're abandoning us just like that. I nodded. Just like that. Claire's working now. Let her help. Or figure it out yourselves. Mom cried harder, but I felt nothing. No guilt, no obligation, just relief. I turned to leave, but Claire grabbed my arm. Ethan, wait. There's something else. I sighed. What now? She glanced at Mom and Dad, then lowered her voice. I found papers in their office. They took out a loan in your name. $10,000. They forged your signature. My blood ran cold. What I said loud enough that Mom gasped. Claire handed me a crumpled document from her pocket. There it was, my name, my social security number, a loan I'd never seen. I spun to Mom and Dad. You stole from me, Dad stammered. We were desperate. We meant to pay it back. Mom sobbed. We didn't want to lose the house. I clutched the paper, my hands shaking. You didn't just use me. You committed fraud. In my name. Claire looked away, guilty. I found it yesterday, she said. I had to tell you. I wanted to scream, to throw something. Instead, I took a deep breath. I'm reporting this, I said. You'll answer for it. Dad's face paled. Ethan, you can't. We're your parents. I laughed cold. Not anymore. I walked out the door, slamming behind me. My heart pounded as I got in my car, the loan document burning a hole in my pocket. I drove straight to Mia's workplace, a small bakery downtown. She was behind the counter frosting cupcakes. One look at my face and she dropped the piping bag. What happened? She said, pulling me to the back. I told her everything, the debt, the foreclosure threat, the forged loan. Her eyes widened. They forged your signature. That's a crime. I nodded. I'm done, Mia. I'm calling the bank. Maybe a lawyer. They're not getting away with this. She hugged me fierce. You're doing the right thing. I'm proud of you. I leaned into her, the weight of it all easing just a bit. But as we stood there, my phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Carter. Big fight at your parents' again. Claire's moving out. You okay? I showed Mia, who whistled. Claire's bailing. This family's imploding. I didn't reply to Mrs. Carter. I didn't know if I was okay. The loan was a betrayal I hadn't seen coming, and Claire's role in exposing it complicated things. Was she really changing or covering her own tracks? And what would happen to Mom and Dad now? I didn't want to care, but a small part of me did. That night, Mia and I sat on the couch, splitting a pizza. What's your next move? She asked. I sighed. Deal with the loan first, then, I don't know, let them sink, I guess. She nodded. Whatever you choose, I've got you. I smiled, grateful for her. But as I lay awake later, one thought kept circling: this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. What's Ethan's next step, and how far will this family drama go? Part 6 is the finale, and it's going to be explosive. The forged loan document felt like a bomb in my pocket. My parents, Greg and Linda, the people who raised me, had stolen my identity for $10,000. Claire's confession, Mrs. Carter's text about her moving out, and the looming threat of their foreclosure swirled in my head. I was done, but I couldn't just walk away. Not yet. I needed to protect myself and end this for good. The next morning, I called my bank. The loan was real tied to my social security number with payments already late. My credit score was tanking. I explained the fraud and they froze the account, advising me to file a police report. My stomach churned at the thought, reporting mom and dad. It felt like betraying family. But then I remembered they betrayed me first. Mia was my rock. Over breakfast, she pushed a plate of eggs my way. "You're doing this right," she said, reading my hesitation. I nodded. "Yeah." They crossed a line. She squeezed my hand. "You've got this, and I've got you." Her confidence steadied me. By noon, I was at the police station handing over the loan papers. The officer, a tired guy named Rodriguez, raised an eyebrow. "Your parents did this?" I shrugged. "They're not who I thought they were." He filed the report, warning it could lead to charges. I didn't flinch. Let them face the consequences. Back home, I hired a lawyer Sarah recommended by a coworker. She was sharp, no nonsense. "This is fraud, plain and simple," she said, reviewing the documents. "We'll dispute the loan and sue for damages if needed. Your parents could face jail time." I swallowed hard. "Jail?" She nodded. "If they can't pay it back, yeah? You okay with that?" I thought about the $26,000 I'd given them. The lies, the vacation. "I'm okay," I said. For the first time, I meant it. 2 days later, my phone rang. Claire. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. What I answered. Her voice was quiet. "I moved out, got a studio apartment. I just wanted you to know." I leaned against the counter. "Good. Why are you calling?" She paused. "Mom and Dad, they're freaking out. The bank sent a foreclosure notice, and they know you reported the loan." I smirked. "They should have thought about that before forging my name." "I'm not defending them," she said quickly. I feel bad. They're falling apart." I sighed. "Claire, they dug this hole." "Not me." She went quiet, then said, "I know. I'm trying to help them, but I can barely cover my own bills. I just wish things were different." I softened just a bit. "Me too, but I can't fix this. Focus on you." She sniffled. "Thanks, Ethan. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you." I hung up, her words lingering. Proud? That was new. Mrs. Carter stopped me outside my apartment the next day, her eyes wide with gossip. "Your parents' house is for sale," she said. "Sign went up this morning, and I heard Claire's working at that diner on 5th. Can you believe it?" I nodded, unsurprised. "They're out of options." She patted my arm. "You did right, Ethan. They took you for granted." I smiled. "Thanks, Miss Carter." Her words felt like a small victory. A week later, Sarah called. The loan was officially disputed and my credit was being restored. The police had questioned Mom and Dad, who admitted to the fraud but claimed they meant no harm. They couldn't pay the $10,000, so charges were pending. Sarah warned they might plea bargain, but restitution was likely. I didn't care about the money anymore. I just wanted it over. That night, I got a letter in the mail, no return address. Inside was a handwritten note from Mom. "Ethan, we're sorry. We were desperate and made terrible choices. We're selling the house and moving to an apartment. We won't bother you again. We love you." I read it twice, waiting for the guilt to hit. It didn't. I showed Mia, who snorted. "Too little, too late." I nodded, tossing the note in the trash. "Yeah, they're on their own." Life got quiet after that. No calls, no texts, no drama. Claire sent me a message a month later, a photo of her in a waitress uniform smiling. "First paycheck. Feels good." I replied, "Keep it up." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. She was trying, and I respected that. Mom and Dad? I heard through Miss Carter they'd moved to a cramped rental across town. I didn't reach out. They'd made their bed. Mia and I started planning a trip, nothing fancy, just a weekend at the coast. It was the first time in years I could spend money without worrying about Mom and Dad's bills. At the diner one night, I ran into Claire. She was bussing tables, her apron stained. She waved, and I nodded back. "How's it going?" I asked. She grinned. "Hard, but I'm okay." "You?" I smiled. "Better than ever." We didn't hug or make promises. Just a moment, then I left. Looking back, I see it clearly. For years, I carried my family thinking it was my duty. They took my money, my trust, my pride, and gave me nothing but lies. Cutting them off wasn't just about the $26,000 or the forged loan. It was about choosing myself. Mia was right. I was too nice for too long. But now I'm free. I don't know what's next for Mom, Dad, or Claire. Maybe Claire will keep climbing. Maybe my parents will learn. I hope they do, but it's not my fight. I've got my own life to live, and for the first time it feels like mine. Thanks for following this wild ride. What do you think? Did Ethan make the right call? Drop your thoughts below and let's talk story Garuu. I came for supper on Mom's birthday. This year we're keeping it small, my sister replied with a smile. Just those we frequently see. The laughing erupted in the room. They invited me to dine in the garage. Grinning, I walked away. A message arrived half an hour later. He is quite theatrical. It's draining. Accidentally sent to me. I turned off the communal utilities, stopped the present delivery, and removed my name from the lease. The first text back stated that I had paid for it. We must speak. Return. My mother's birthday preparations cost me slightly over $100. I don't even know how it built up that fast when I look at the number now. The first treat was the personalized cake. 3 layers of dark chocolate and raspberry mousse adorned with edible gold cost $180. Her name was written over the top as well. I remembered her saying, "That's the kind of cake you remember," after pointing it out on Instagram. The flowers I purchased from the West Boutique forest she used for my aunt's funeral arrived next. Her favorite flowers, lilies, hydrangeas, and peonies, were arranged in 2 enormous centerpieces, one for the dining table and one for the foyer. An hour prior to dinner time, they were supposed to come. It came to $240. Then wine, 3 bottles of Pinot came in from Oregon from a little vineyard she adored. I never even had a chance to open them. After that, the thing that truly irritated me was the utilities. Melanie contacted 2 months ago to say that things were difficult. Bills piling up, notifications of disconnection, and some awkward discussions they didn't want their mother to overhear were all things I could infer from her without her saying it out loud. For a time, I volunteered to cover it. Gas, water, electrical, only until the situation stabilizes. That came to $770 over 2 months. I made the payment without question. I didn't come for a spot then. I believed that perhaps just possibly being the one who always showed up might eventually mean something, so I arrived because it was Mom's birthday. Everything appeared to be normal as I stepped in. From the dining room came laughter and the aroma of garlic and roast chicken, potatoes, the clinking of plates, wine was being poured. With my bottle of Pinot in one hand, I followed the sound. The table was occupied by 9 people. 9. Perhaps mine hadn't been set yet, I thought as I hesitated. Melanie was the first to notice me. Like we were on stage, she stood and grinned. "This year we're keeping it small," she remarked. "Just those we frequently see." Like a punchline, the table erupted in laughter. Nobody appeared to be uncomfortable. They all did not hesitate. I waited for my mother to speak. She didn't. She only gazed at her dish. Then I caught a glimpse of it via the garage door that was open. A single chair and a foldable table. There's a paper plate waiting, as if they had really planned it. I said nothing at all. I walked back to the car, turned around, and drove away. The wine was on the entry table when I left it. My phone buzzed after 10 minutes. He is quite theatrical. Melanie is tired from it. Not for me, of course. I gazed at the message while I sat there. The truth struck more forcefully than I had anticipated. After that, I terminated the delivery, canceled the cake, phoned the florist, and opened 3 applications. My card was taken out of the account when I logged into the utility site. I removed my name as a co-signer and pulled up the lease documents. They added me in order to increase their approval percentage without my presence. They had returned to their starting point and, half an hour later, "We must speak. Return." The remaining mails were not even read by me. In all, there were 7. They are all attempting to justify themselves. Late in the evening. For the first time, I sat by myself in my apartment and didn't feel bad for prioritizing myself. I simply felt finished. When everything was turned off by me. Utilities. Rent presents. There was instantaneous digital silence. For 3 weeks in a row, there was not a single message. It was no longer the family group chat that would blow up over nothing. No Aunt Karens sent memes, no happy mornings. Not a passive-aggressive one either. I hope all is fine with you all. I wasn't shocked, but it seemed like I had disappeared. For years, I had been witnessing things unfold in slow motion. I had a straightforward function in the household. Resolve issues, pay your bills, be there when it was inconvenient and disappear when it wasn't. Being needed is the same as being respected, I used to tell myself. I listened to the quiet. I didn't make contact. I was curious how long it would take them to say something without a request attached. As a spoiler, it took a full day. Melanie then gave me a call. I became uncomfortable just seeing her name flash across my computer. I didn't respond. She texted 2 minutes later. "We've been conversing, hello. Could we go get coffee sometime, me and you alone? Don't apologize." Nothing about what transpired. A gentle invitation only, as if there had never been any problems. "Yes," I replied. We got together at a peaceful Glendale cafe. She arrived with her phone in her hand and her sunglasses oversized as if she were waiting for a better offer. She plunged right into it, flashing me her worn-out, rehearsed smile. "It became messy," she remarked. "Nobody intended to harm you." That was one of the many expressions she used. It wasn't intimate. All we wanted to do was keep things easy. When mom is under stress, you know how she gets. What they did was not theirs. Everyone laughed and refused to confess. She accidentally sent an SMS, but no one brought it up. She did, however, mention that as I left, mom sobbed. I nearly fell for that part. I feigned to let everything go, nodded through it, and then gradually allowed myself to reintegrate. Conveniently, just before Melanie inquired whether I still had a contact at the property management office because their rent was increasing, I was added back to the group chat after that coffee. I promised to check, but I never did. Nevertheless, when they asked me to correct the situation at the upcoming family meal, I accepted. I was seated at the main table this time. It was that terrible dry dish that Jenna brought. "It's gourmet," she assures me. Mom pretended that we were all closer than ever, and Ryan told crude jokes. Nobody brought up the garage. Nobody made any mention. Rather, they gave me a toast. To Hubert. "Always the glue," Melanie added. Everyone gave a clap. I ought to have known. Correct, I ought to have recognized it for what it was. Not a reconciliation, but a plan. They all began writing about their trip to the Bahamas 2 weeks later. There was a bundle deal. Ryan went to work. A much-needed respite. Jenna wrote a caption for a picture. "Just the family," someone other remarked. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't invited either. I had lowered my expectations so much by then that it felt normal to be left out. I was surprised to land in the air on the same day they took off. Back discomfort was the first symptom, followed by nausea, chills, and eventually excruciating pain that caused me to pass out in the restroom. I also made an ambulance call. Make a kidney stone diagnosis. That night, while I lay there, hooked up to fluids and looking over their beach images, they admitted me. At last, I contacted Melanie to let her know that I was in the hospital. "I just wanted to let you know." I received a heart emoji 12 hours later. They'd seen it, but no text. They simply didn't give a damn. There I stayed for 3 nights. No guests, no phone calls. There was no check-in, not even mom. I couldn't even get a buddy on the line at the last minute, so I sat outdoors in the cold for 30 minutes, waiting for a rideshare driver on the day I was released. Once I returned to my home. I sat on the couch without turning on the lights after spilling everything on the floor. And I suddenly realized I was never wanted there, not at all. All they did was hold me close enough to exploit me. They also ceased pretending to do so when I quit playing the role. At that point, the concept began to take shape. I had much to do with them. Not quite yet. I returned home from the hospital 3 days later. Melanie called still drowsy from painkillers and not yet healed. I let the voicemail go. Her message was excessively positive, like if nothing had occurred. "Hello, just dropping in. We've returned. I'm eager to see you. Let's get together soon." Nothing about my hospitalization. "No, how are you?" Nothing more than a return to standard programming, as though I had been put on hold while they were away. Mom stated the vacation cured her spirit in a group text that same day, along with a picture of her tan lines. Ryan shared a video of them dancing at the resort's outside bar with random people. I didn't see it whole, but what was the main point? For me, what was the final straw? Although Melanie's message said, "Love if you could grab that Thai place, we love your treat since you know the owner, LOL." They wanted me to bring food to the next family meal rather than coming to deliver food. Without embarrassment or irony. Simply write the pattern back. That was the end of it. The switch switched. I gave up trying to salvage anything. No more hope that they will change, no more guilt. Simple, icy clarity. I gave the lawyer my grandpa had before he died a call. Mr. Dresner was a quiet man with thicker files and a long memory. They were all living at my grandfather's house, which had never been completely transferred. Years before Dad passed away, he had formally added me to the deed as a formality, but he never took me out. I might become the only one with the correct file, but I was still a legal corner. Mr. Dresner attested to it. It would only require a few signatures, a petition, and a silent title action. I had enough saved, but it would be costly, especially after cutting back on all the small costs I had been carelessly paying. I brought an official letter to their home 2 weeks later. Within minutes, Melanie phoned me furiously. "You're not telling the truth. Isn't this a joke? This is where we reside. Grandpa wanted it for us, but I informed her it wasn't a joke. Grandpa also wanted me to be respected," I told her. Neither had that occurred. They pleaded, threatened, and promised to hire a lawyer, but they lacked the funds. Even before I withdrew my assistance, they were barely making ends meet. Within the upcoming month, in real time, I saw the family unravel. Social media was flooded with arguments. Jenna returned to live with a buddy. Ryan Couch went surfing. No one had the resources or the energy to oppose this, despite Melanie's best efforts to organize everyone. I took possession of the residence. I didn't expel them immediately officially. I offered them a 30-day period. They never showed me as much grace as that. Until the very last day, they made an effort to guilt me. Mom shed a tear or two, said she was shocked that I would harm her own family in this way. However, I simply stood in the foyer, gazing at the location where the cake should have been. I was never able to produce that one. Since they were correct, I remained silent. My family was no longer my family, but I wouldn't have done this to them. The 30-day grace period went by more slowly than I had anticipated. I drove by the house every day. I counted the indications that they were packing at my place now. On certain days, boxes were piled up close to the front window. On other days, it appeared as though nothing had changed. Light. Nighttime sunlight. Vehicles remain in the driveway. I had a sneaking suspicion that they were preparing something. To stop what was already done, some Hail Mary trick was used. After Melanie's phone breakdown, they didn't get in touch with me again. Not right away. I occasionally saw passive-aggressive Facebook posts about snakes in the grass or people who ignore blood, but I never saw my name. They were cautious, consistently evasive, and always enough defensible to maintain their victim status in public. They were scurrying behind closed doors. I was aware of how quiet the final few days before the deadline were. No lights on at night, no posts on social media. I believe that reality has now sunk in. They were unable to stop it. They were unable to bury it in phony apologies, guilt trip it, or pervert it. They had nothing left to trade, and for the first time I had the leverage. The morning they were scheduled to leave, I arrived. Other than a stack of bags near the curb, the driveway was deserted. Trash bags filled with clothing and worn-out cushions. One of those enormous Valentine's Day teddy bears. Someone. One at a fair, most likely. It was 10 years ago. They had vanished. There was no notice on the door, no dramatization. However, there was only one sheet of paper on the kitchen counter. "You prevail." I hope it was worthwhile. Melanie's penmanship was all that. No signature, no real farewell. I spent some time standing in the kitchen. I'm not sure how I felt. There was no feeling of triumph. Not satisfied. Not even a sense of relief. Only room. Rooms are empty, sound waves. And the silence after a conflict. I went into the home. Room by room. They were surprisingly clean. There was nothing damaged. There are no carved messages on the walls. No physical evidence of a juvenile outburst was left behind. The beds were stripped as well. They departed as if they were aware that they wouldn't be returning for another week. I was a silent person. Friends weren't invited. I didn't switch on the television. I didn't really touch anything. Squatting in a museum of things I once loved but were now enmeshed in bitterness was how it felt. My grandfather's room was where I slept, the one that no one ever desired. The fragrance of old aftershave and cigars was still there. I was more reassured by that scent than I had anticipated. Then the calls began. Of course not from them, from the family's broader circle. Those who enjoyed contributing after the dust settled, but had little interest in the drama. And, "I heard what happened, Linda. I only want to apologize." It was a bit harsh, don't you think? Uncle Mark Melanie informed me that you had evicted them from their house. What would cause you to do that is beyond me. I didn't respond to the majority of them. Those to which I did reply. I didn't say much. They didn't live there. I owned it. It was always. Even that little group of relatives' voices eventually turned against me. A cryptic narrative about how greed transforms people was shared on Instagram by a relative I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. After leaving a remark, another relative blocked me entirely. I hope one of my pictures makes you happy. The story didn't end there. Melanie threw herself into public relations. She sent a lengthy emotional message along with a black and white picture of the house on Facebook. According to their version of events, the caption resembled an obituary. This location served as our home refuge and childhood home. We never thought that someone we cared about would take it away from us. Sometimes families split up in silence. I just ask that folks keep in mind that every choice has a backstory. Numerous sympathetic, encouraging individuals from her church, her coworkers, and even her college roommate commented on how awful it all sounded, and the likes and comments poured in. I remained silent, didn't respond. I simply watched. But at that moment, something changed inside of me. I was being portrayed as the bad guy. To make it appear as though I had suddenly lashed, I rewrote every moment. Just as if I hadn't given them years. As like I hadn't taken insult after insult, paid all of the bills. Through every word of humor, I smiled. I also understood that they weren't only attempting to gain compassion. They were constructing a shield for their return. Since they would eventually attempt to return. Not to say sorry, not to make things better, but to request something different. I had finished mending things, but I had not finished destroying them. 42 days after their departure, they returned. I kept track so I can recall the number. I didn't have any hope left. Not now. I knew they would, so I counted. Individuals like them don't disappear. Not while you still have anything to take. The morning was a Saturday. I had been putting off painting the upstairs hallway for years, and I was halfway done. When the knock was heard, the doorbell, no, the rap. They were tentative and soft, as if they weren't sure whether I would open it or slam it in their faces. Melanie was the one. She had changed appearance. Though fatigued around the eyes, the makeup is paler. She was wearing an ill-fitting hoodie as she stood there. Jeans as well. She wouldn't have one, I knew. It was 6 months ago. Additionally, carrying a Tupperware container like this next to her mother was merely a friendly visit. "Can we have a conversation?" Melanie stated. I didn't respond. I just moved to make room for them. I have no idea why. Perhaps I was interested. Perhaps I was curious about the lie they practiced in the vehicle on the way over. The kitchen table was where they sat. Since they went, I've eaten there by myself every night. Mom opened the box, lasagna, purchased from a store but sufficiently heated to appear handmade. She shoved it forward. She said I prepared dinner. They spoke as if they were attempting to fix a chessboard after it had been turned upside down. "We've all made errors, we may hurry things, and families have difficult times," they added. At one point, Melanie even broke down in tears, which went nicely with her statement, "I just want my brother back." The hospital was not mentioned. The text was not mentioned. They made no note of the fact that none of them ever showed up when I needed them. But they did a great job dancing around it. "Since the house things have been difficult for us," Melanie stated. "All we're looking for is stability once more. Ryan is dozing off on a friend's sofa. Jenna is remaining in a cold studio." Mom then gave me a look as if she were going to tell something really significant. We pondered whether there could be a way out of this. I remembered that line. A path back, as though they had accidentally strolled into this mess. As like I hadn't already been pushed out of my own family. However, I gave a nod. Said we could come up with a solution. Because I wasn't the villain Hubert at that time. I was the optimistic child Hubert who once thought his family would turn things. They began to reappear throughout the course of the following 2 weeks. Hovering, not living here. Melanie once dropped off groceries. Mom came over. We became unexpectedly engaged in nostalgia for old photo albums. Ryan texted me vaguely about getting a beer shortly. A part of me still wanted to think that they meant it this time, that perhaps losing everything had knocked the entitlement out of them, so I allowed it to happen even though it seemed artificial. That perhaps this was the beginning of something genuine. It wasn't a silent moment that killed it. After all, I was back in the hospital. This is only a small follow-up, nothing spectacular. Consequences of the previous renal problem. No more than a 24-hour observation. Just to let them know I texted the group chat, not requesting anything, only making it public. Again, no answer. I looked over Instagram that evening. Melanie shared a picture of herself at LAX with her mother. Passes for boarding are in hand. Cancun is the destination. Caption: there are moments when you just must go. First family, always. Don't bring me up, not a message, no visit, no call. They were aware. They were aware that I was once again alone in that hospital bed. The following morning, they decided to depart the nation. As I lay there in my flimsy hospital gown, I looked up at the ceiling and knew I had been mistaken. They were the same. They did nothing except wait. Waited until they believed I had calmed down. Waited until they could regain access to the aspects of my life that served their interests. Waited for the house, the access, and the safety net. There was only a strategy, no reconciliation. I thus opened a folder I had not touched in months when I came home. All of the documents that Grandpa had left me were inside, or say, bank records and deeds. One thing caught my attention. I was more than simply a corner thanks to a silent provision in the trust. I could lawfully bar any former occupants from the residence without having to go through the legal system again if I activated it under certain conditions. The state in which they had abandoned it. I only needed to sign it, file it, seal it, and then permanently remove it all. The same evening that I discovered the Cancun photo, I signed the documents. It was hardly a sense of victory, nor did it feel chilly. It simply seemed necessary to take action, similar to locking a door following a break-in. You're done acting like the area is safe, not because you're upset. The trust provision gave me the authority to take complete possession of the house when it was evident that the occupants had abandoned it for more than 30 days without any kind of written agreement or payment. My attorney did not even flinch. The following morning, he swiftly and silently filed it. After they returned from Cancun, it was over already. The first to learn was Melanie. 3 days later, she returned to the house carrying a duffel bag and exuding her typical self-assurance. I was considering spending some time here. I said, she said, there is some tension with Jenna. She couldn't, I told her. She laughed at first. She paused after glancing at my face. I can't, what do you mean? This is the house where I grew up. I described my actions. I informed her that the class had been activated, that the trust was secured and updated, that they were more than visitors. They were barred by law. Right now, indefinitely. Slowly, her expression changed from one of shock to a sort of startled stillness I hadn't seen in years. After that, she said something that nearly made me chuckle. Are you not being serious? In reality, you wouldn't harm us in this way. However, I had already. Later that evening, there was a meltdown. Mom texted. Ryan called. Jenna's voicemails were rambling and angry. Alternating between tears and rage, they pleaded. They made accusations, they gave me every possible name they could come up with, said I was spiteful and callous. Someone who betrays the family. As I stood motionless, I watched them swirl in a bizarre way. Things quickly fell apart over that week. Melanie found herself sofa surfing once more. In pursuit of a job that he had not yet secured, Ryan relocated out of state. A mysterious statement about losing everything to someone you trusted was posted by Jenna. Moreover, a buddy informed me that Mom was lodging at a friend's spare room. Too arrogant to acknowledge the truth. The family broke up. They floated without the home or the anchor. What's the best part? Nobody openly blamed me. They knew they couldn't not because they didn't want to. They had overspoken. Posting too much and displaying too much. The narrative was no longer credible. And me, I remained. Every room was redone by myself. The old furniture was sold. Grandpa's room always smelled like fresh air and cedar since I lived in there permanently and kept the windows open. It was the first time the house truly felt like mine. I wish I could claim to have missed them and to have wondered whether I'd gone too far at one point. In actuality, though, I gave them every chance to show me that they were more than what they had demonstrated. And at the most crucial moment, hospital visits were replaced by beach photographs and drinks. They put convenience ahead of empathy. I became the antagonist because of them. I therefore became one. Nor out of need, nor out of malice, not out of resentment. Because the narrative had to be finished by someone. They continued to revise. Additionally, I decided to write the final page myself. Story 3 on my birthday. My reservation was for 10. Made the deposit payment. No one showed up. My sister gave me a spreadsheet a week later. All of us are contributing to your sister's wedding. Photographer, $1,600 apiece. No birthday greetings. I'm not sorry. Along with the message, I sent one. I've already given it my all. I then left a final transfer label, updated all the passwords, and stopped the automatic payments. The bond party. Not one of them wished me a happy birthday after they had phoned me 42 times. No calls, texts, or posts. For them, the day seemed to be non-existent, as if I hadn't. I spent the entire morning looking at my phone. I was half anticipating a visitor who was excited about tonight's supper. However, nothing was present. Only spam emails and an app alert confirming the meal reservation. The accommodation was reserved 2 months in advance. This Italian location has a private area. I had been putting money aside for something special. Warm lighting, exposed brick 10 chairs. It's quiet enough to speak. People seem to dress up a bit for this type of event, and I had been anticipating it. I made no requests for presents or attention. Just a few hours to spend together as a family, eating, laughing, and sitting down. It was a short list. My Uncle Jerry, 2 cousins. My parents, both of my sisters and their spouses. 10 individuals. My 10. I silently made the $300 deposit payment. I even gave them a call in advance to ask for a few extra items such as their house candles and a tiramisu at the end. I wanted to make things simple for them. I arrived 15 minutes ahead of schedule. Before I went, I can still remember changing my shirt twice in the mirror, pondering whether things will feel different this year. Grinning, the hostess said that the room was ready and ushered me inside. The table has the ideal appearance. Menus are positioned, well, glasses are set. For the first few minutes, the new bread in the center was still steaming. I waited there, hoping for a response, checking my phone like a teenager. They may have been parked. Perhaps there was traffic. Perhaps I could make 10 people chuckle as they entered, acting as though they were intentionally late. I wished for that time, but it never came. 15 minutes followed by 30. Nothing has changed. The waitress smiled courteously as she approached, asked if I wanted to wait or place an order. I promised to wait. An hour later, I saw that nobody was approaching. I didn't consume the food I had packaged, tip as though expressing regret for their own embarrassment. The plastic bag dug into my hand as I walked home in the cold. I opened Instagram at home. My mother had uploaded a photo. In a bridal gown, my sister Kayla stands in front of a full-length mirror. Our little angel looks stunning, my dad had said. I was seated at that table by myself when it was uploaded. Nobody brought up my birthday. Nobody inquired about the success of supper. Nobody even made an effort to recall for the days ahead. I didn't hear anything, not from anybody. Then the email arrived. On a Sunday afternoon, Kayla sent it out. The reimbursement was the subject line. No, hello, or hope you're doing okay. The spreadsheet link alone. I looked at the numbers when I opened it. For the wedding, they had a high-end photographer reserved. Someone who charged more than my rent each month and supposedly photographed celebrity events. Each member of the family received $600 of the total. She wrote that everyone must give by the 30th. Nana is outgoing. I read it 3 times. I didn't mention missing my birthday at all. Not even a casual one. Sorry we were unable to attend. Nothing. Only a request. I didn't respond. After writing Kayla a letter, I opened Venmo and sent her one. I've already given it my all. I then signed into all of the shared services I had been covertly paying for throughout the years, including the AAA membership, Netflix, Spotify, the family, the group mobile phone account, and even the auto insurance that had been in my name since I was 24. I turned everything off. The passwords have been updated. Canceled payments. I then transferred one last amount into my personal savings from the previous joint family emergency account. They called it the bond party. That night, the calls began. My mom was the first, followed by Ashley, my dad, then Kayla. Again and again. In 6 hours, 42 calls were made. I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't shout. I didn't rage in my message. I kept the reason a secret from them, because it was only the start. For 3 days, they continued to call. Half messages. Heavy sighs, passive-aggressive silence, and a few phony calms filled my voicemail. Call us back tones, please. I didn't respond to any of them. My dad texted me on the 3rd night. Only 4 words. You're acting like such a child. I realized then that they still didn't understand. Not even close. Mel inquired as to why I was receiving texts from extended family. Uncle Jerry sent a question mark via text message. A screenshot of my $0.01 payment and the note I had previously given everything were then included in another group message that Kayla sent. She included a caption. What is the intended meaning of this, and distributed it to everybody. The birth date has not yet been mentioned. No apologies as of yet. Just misunderstanding, as if I were the one who had deviated from the script. Ashley contacted me from a different number I accidentally picked up 2 days later. Kayla was crying, she said, that I was exaggerating the situation, that none of us remembered. Significant. It's not like your wedding, is it? That one stuck. I responded to her with a single sentence. Only one. Then hung up. Things changed at that point. They began to attempt to make things more amicable. My mother emailed. An apology in her own words. There were 4 lines. She said that things simply go between the cracks since they are so preoccupied with wedding preparations. She then inquired as to whether I would still be paying the photographer, as it is crucial at the moment. Not a single line inquired about my feelings. There wasn't a single phrase that gave me a human feeling. So I didn't write anything. Instead, I got a good desk chair, improved the lighting in my apartment, and scheduled a haircut at a place I'd been admiring for months. While I was filling in for them, I began to accomplish all the small tasks I had put off for years. Uncle Jerry was seated at a different table across the restaurant when I went to breakfast by myself a week later. When he saw me, he got up and came over. "No, hi there." "You know they're planning something for the wedding," she whispered, leaning forward. "Just letting you know. Don't count on an easy ride." I gave him a glance. He didn't flinch. "What are you saying?" "They feel like you embarrassed the family?" he remarked with a shrug. "The photographer. They informed everyone that you declined to assist, said that you stormed off for no reason. The word is spreading. If he was warning me," I inquired. "I didn't know," he said. He returned to his table after that. I thus did something unexpected for them. I accept the wedding invitation. I purchased a present. Thoughtful, yet not costly. Kayla desired something that only those close to her would know. I kept my hotel reservation close to the event a secret. I left the family group conversation unaltered. I knew they had something planned for me, so I started making plans for my outfit and didn't publish anything online. They intended to make me look foolish in front of everyone. I was already 5 steps ahead, but they were unaware of it. The wedding was just how I had anticipated. Too much, costly, out loud, in such methodical manner that leaves nothing to chance. The cocktail napkin and the floral arrangements both shouted money. Not to celebrate love, but to impress strangers. That's the type of wedding you host. I got there early, parked near the lot's edge, and entered by themselves. Perhaps wondering if I belonged? The valet gave me a quick glance. I continued to walk. I didn't feel anxious. I had even lost my anger. I was oddly at ease, similar to someone seeing a film. They were already aware of the conclusion. I was spotted. They did, of course. It had been weeks since I'd spoken to any of them. Some nodded firmly and courteously. Some averted their gazes as if they had just witnessed something awkward. However, nobody made a direct statement. Avoid conflict. Only discomfort. I learned all I needed to know from it. Outside, behind a massive arch of white flowers, the wedding took place. Kayla looked stunning. I'll grant her that. She had a knack for pulling. Pay attention. Nick, the groom, didn't seem to understand why they read their vows and appeared to have just been informed that he had won a contest. Everyone sniffed. In the background, someone played a violin quietly. Near the center 3rd row was where I sat. Too far away to be family. Family yet visible from a distance. Halfway through the vows, Kayla's gaze came to me. Only a moment. No grin, not a wave. Just be surprised. She didn't anticipate me. That was the idea. Everyone filed into the reception area following the ceremony. String lights with champagne, seats allotted to the work. Sitting at the end of a long table among cousins I hadn't talked to since college was my name card. I grinned, struck up a conversation, and consumed their food. The tone didn't change until the toasts began. First to go was the best man. It's funny, secure, a bit lengthy. Then my father arrived. As soon as he got to his feet, I knew something was about to happen. He cleared his throat, tapped the microphone, and grinned. He usually had that tight-lipped grin before feigning wisdom. He began by discussing the customary wedding topics of love, commitment, and the basis of trust. Then it swerved. He began discussing the importance of family, concerning fidelity, about being there for each other, even when it's difficult. Then he stated this: people occasionally lose sight of what it means to be a part of something greater because they are so consumed by their personal vanity. Also, they could only have $0.01 to donate. It's okay. However, perhaps they will consider using that penny for something worthwhile the next time. A few chuckled, while some did not understand enough did. I didn't recoil. I stayed. I simply lifted my glass and drank some water. Kayla was grinning. Ashley, with that smug little look she usually had when she believed she'd won, leaned near her and whispered something. My mother didn't even give me a look. She simply gazed at her hands. They believed it to be the case, their retribution, their big moment. Following the toasts, I went outdoors. A server was having a break, but otherwise the patio was deserted. For the remainder of the evening, I stood there. I didn't create any commotion. No one was confronted by me. I just kept out of the spotlight so they could enjoy their carefully planned ideal day. I packed fast when I got back to the motel that evening. I had a battle scheduled for the next morning. Just one way. No going back. For weeks, I had been secretly preparing it just before bed. I sent the family group chat one last message. Next week, we're moving. Don't inquire as to where. Nobody answered. I started sharing peaceful photos a few days later. Nothing overly ostentatious. A new coffee shop there, a beach here. Enough to let them know I was gone. I managed to get by without them, but every few weeks I would receive a cryptic message from a blocked number or a missed call. None of them were answered by me. They had lived their entire lives believing that I would always be the one to mend the plants, fill in the gaps, and clean up the mess. However, I wasn't doing anything this time. Furthermore, the quiet was more audible than any retaliation I could have devised. The stillness on my end once I relocated was deliberate. They weren't blocked by me. I simply stopped responding. Left everything exposed. To lessen the impact, I wanted them to sit with it and experience the consequences of their actions without reacting. In a city I never discussed with them, I moved into a peaceful one-bedroom apartment. For what it was, the lease was inexpensive. Old wooden flooring, high ceilings, a balcony that's just large enough for a chair, and a view of nothing in particular. I liked it right away. I didn't even unpack everything within the first week. I purchased a single plant, new sheets, and a new lamp. Starting tiny felt fantastic. I kept my address a secret. No surprise visitors, no new group conversations. The family made many attempts to call. They left voicemails that began with worry and then turned to bewilderment. One of my mother's messages caught my attention. "This is going too far," she remarked. "A month has passed." 1 month. On my birthday, I recalled sitting by myself at the table staring at 10 vacant chairs while checking my phone. In the night, they continued on. I was slow. In the second month, I acquired a new job. Better hours, smaller business. I began taking weekend vacations. Denver for 2 days. Seattle for a long weekend. Nothing ostentatious, only distance. I sometimes uploaded a few photos. Never tag places. Never include captions. Only enough to let them know. The calls had largely ceased by the 3rd month, but the jealousy had begun to seep in. Ashley pretended that the communication was about a recipe. "I saw your picture at that seafood restaurant. Remember how your mother prepares that baked halibut?" It was bait. I refrained from biting. Suddenly, Kayla sent me an email. Update was the topic line. Her honeymoon was at issue. She included 5 pictures of herself and Nick on a beach. Without a doubt. Don't apologize. Only a lengthy series of, "Do you not feel pleased for me?" I didn't respond. A picture of the old automobile my dad used to drive was received. Considering selling. "Do you want it?" After a moment of staring, I preserved the mail. I was aware of their actions, testing the door. About the 4th month, I learned from a cousin that my mother had been inquiring about my precise whereabouts. She made it seem as though I had ran away or was suffering a breakdown by telling people that I had gone to a rural area. Traditional damage control. The wedding album, however, followed. I got it in the mail. I recognized my mother's handwriting on the envelope, but there was no return address. A fully printed album of Kayla's wedding was contained within. Each page had a polished appearance, an immaculately organized family's memories book. Additionally, there was a picture of myself sitting by myself at the edge of the reception on one of the pages at the end, after all the caption they included arrived. I became aware of what they were doing at that point. Rewriting the narrative. They intended to act as if nothing had occurred, that I never missed my birthday, that I wasn't ridiculed during the toast, because until I said no, I wasn't being taken advantage of. They were going to act as though I was simply irritable and aloof, that they never stopped trying. And I could have answered. I sent a message, spoke the truth to everyone. However, I didn't, for I was doing all the labor with quiet. I did not see any of them again for 7 months. It wasn't anything I planned. I had no intention of returning for anything. However, it came time to renew my license. Regretfully, I was still required to do it in person in my home state. I traveled in and stayed for 2 nights without telling anyone. As anticipated, the DMV was crowded. I waited with my head down. Approximately halfway through, I heard my name being called. Uncle Jerry was there when I glanced up. He nodded briefly, asked if I could have coffee later. Even though I didn't want to, I said yes because of the manner he asked. Around the corner, we visited a tiny restaurant. At first, he was silent. I simply placed my coffee order and gazed out the window. You know, they're still trying to spin it, he continued. I didn't respond. He continued. I was informed by Kayla that I had had a difficult year and had distanced myself from the extended family, that I became overburdened by everything. A whole rewrite. People are being told that you separated yourself. He said that after you were not asked to assist more with the wedding, you had a breakdown. That made me giggle. I simply thought you should know, replied Jerry, shrugging. You haven't said anything. They're going crazy about that. I opened Facebook when I returned to the hotel. A vintage picture of us from a family vacation in the 1990s was sent by my mom. She wrote in her post that she missed the good old days. Love my guy forever. It didn't appeal to me. Didn't say anything. Simply gazed at it for a while. I drove by the old house the next day. In the driveway was my dad's vehicle. The kitchen lights were on. 2 streets away, I parked and sat down. I had no intention of entering. All I wanted was to see it again. Ashley texted me as I was sitting there. Are you at home? Was all it said. After flipping the phone, I sped off. I picked up a website that I had been admiring for months back at the airport. The position was a long shot, something involving travel abroad, something entirely apart from my current activities. From the gate, I applied. It felt different on that journey home. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't trying to dodge them. I had just finished. They may continue to make up stories acting as though the events had not transpired as they did. But I became quieter the more they spoke. And for some reason, that quiet was more powerful than anything I could say. Since the truth was straightforward, I would not return. Not to the home, not to the position that they had created for me. And I was aware that their greatest worry was that I was hired a month after I returned via plane. It included compensated travel and relocation, a peaceful apartment in another nation. On the same day the offer was made, I accepted it. Didn't think twice. I boarded a plane 2 weeks later, having packed my life into 3 bags. No social media posts announcing the transfer or farewell sentiments. There, I didn't know anyone. I made a new beginning. I had a lot of days, at last. It's the type of fool that doesn't want to live. I encountered folks with whom I had nothing to prove myself. I explored, I worked, and my sleep improved. I had stopped avoiding people. All I had was freedom. I sometimes upload a picture, coffee, a train journey, and a mountain. In a little city I never thought I'd adore. No tags, no location. Just enough to inform them that I was still alive. It actually began at that point. The jealousy. It arrived in faint waves. Ashley DM'd me first. You seem to be enjoying yourselves. Then there was stillness. My mother's comment beneath a picture. Whoa, living your life to the fullest. I received a lengthy email from Kayla that was half an update and half a guilt trip. We all want to make things right, and it's been difficult without you, she added. But she never brought up my birthday, the toast, or the one that was delivered. It lacked a specific apology and was filled with ambiguous wording. I didn't answer. They had no idea how to deal with that. They attempt to get me back in with something that seems like care but always ends up being control every time I go a bit further away. In a message, my father asked whether I had considered returning home. Said that the family would find it very meaningful. I let it read. None of them realized that I didn't despise them. I wasn't planning a protracted retaliation or waiting to punish them. That would have implied that my concern was unchanged. I simply no longer trusted them to have access to me, and they were sufficiently enraged by it. 3 months have passed since my last meaningful interaction. Ashley sent a message stating that my mom wasn't feeling well emotionally and that you should give her a call simply to talk to her. I looked at it for a while. I then responded in writing. For years she listened to my quiet. Now she can hear it too. I didn't anticipate receiving a response, and I didn't. My next birthday was celebrated abroad. No drama, no family. Simply delicious meal. 2 new acquaintances and a call from a person I had recently begun dating. I received a notice at one point when I was eating supper. Kayla had shared a picture of the entire family during a gathering. The corner of the shot showed my chair vacant. "It constantly seems like someone is missing," she said in the caption. She got it right for once. I was no longer playing the part, but they could continue to act and tell their experiences. I never turned around after leaving the stage in silence and without making a disturbance. The revision. I had been gone for more than a year. By this time, I had become comfortable in a life I never imagined having. Different rhythm, different country, people who were indifferent to the situation and unaware of my past. I had mastered a new language. There was a bakery that I loved. The person I was seeing didn't try to use me, repair me, or shame me into doing anything. I didn't feel like I was performing for the first time in my life. Then suddenly something occurred that yanked the past back into my grasp. I received a letter. Not a text, not an email, a genuine letter. My name is printed properly, but there is no return address. My former mailing service sent it. It wasn't bureaucratic despite my initial assumption when I opened it. My cousin gave it to me. The person who never took sides. In the midst of all the familial commotion, it kind of lived in the background. It was a brief letter. He claimed to have discovered something but was unsure of what to do with it. He was thus forwarding it to me, since you are most likely the only person who should be aware of it. A printout of an email sent by my mother to a cousin 3 days before to my birthday was found within the envelope, the one they passed over. She wrote that I was become too accustomed to believing he was more important than he actually is, that they intended to skip the event in order to somewhat degrade him. Maybe a quiet birthday would teach him that he's not the center of the world, she remarked, adding that I needed a reality check. There, I read it 3 times. It was evidence. No miscommunication, not forgetfulness, deliberate, planned. To degrade me, they skipped my birthday. I have no idea why that struck me so strongly. I believed I had moved on. I created an entirely new life. However, there's something about hearing it stated that way, the brutality of it. For a moment, the conceit reopened something. I thought of phoning without screaming, crying, or making any demands. I didn't see it, but I wanted to pretend I did. I choose to upload a picture of the letter instead. When they claim it wasn't personal, there are no names or context in the caption, but you eventually learn it was. Some strangers shared their personal familial betrayals in the comments section of the post, which caused a stir. Some are just stating, "I'm glad you left." I never told them about it. I didn't publish a follow-up or react to the cousin, but I framed the letter as a strange prize rather than out of resentment. I presented it as a reminder of my reasons for leaving, staying away, and never returning. Sometimes the loudest thing someone will ever hear is the stillness you offer them. The last update. It's amusing how after realizing they no longer have control over the narrative, individuals begin to act as though they care. 2 months or so after I published the letter, all that was left was a grainy picture with a caption that conveyed more than they had ever spoken. Kayla made contact. Not with apologies. Just a direct message, not even a message. Wow, it was low though. I choose to disregard it. I received a call from an unidentified number the next day. I let it to ring. Then one more. I finally picked up. It was my father. He sounded calm, even strangely courteous, as if he were attempting to seem as though we were strangers. "I saw the post," he said. Stated that there is no justification for bringing this matter to light, as if they didn't deserve my quiet umniyat. I said very little. Simply listen. He said that Kayla was upset my mom had been sobbing and the family was disintegrating as a result of my refusal to simply go on. At last I spoke up. I inquired as to whether he recalled the supper I had reserved. The reservation for 10 was skipped by them. We didn't intend for things to get that terrible, he added. Yeah, you meant it to get worse, I said. Then I hung up the phone. Ashley's daughter mailed me a wedding invitation a week later. My name was still stated as Michael. No personal message, no remark. Only a date and a card. Before throwing it out, I kept it on the counter for a week without opening it.